Want to know how to make the most of the month's energy and avoid the pitfalls? Welcome to the Cosmic Download with astrologer Simone Butler and intuitive Anna Francesca Celestino.
Hey, I'm Anna from the Cosmic Download.
And I'm Simone.
And we're here to give you the forecast for January 2018. We're ready to start a new year here. All right. Well, the first thing that I got, should I go first?
Yeah.
Okay. The first thing I got was, okay, I feel bad. It's like, here's the beginning of the year. This isn't the cheeriest thing to say, but I've just been like so aware of everybody's nervous systems. It's like, it just seems like last year was just one shock after another. And so what I got for January was, and really for this year, is that we need to come to terms with the fact that extremes right now, not forever, but for right now, extremes are the norm, whether it's weather, whether it's politics. There's just so many things, so many extremes that we're experiencing. And we have to just realize that we are in a process of change. And it's like, you know, we're about at a full boil, a full rolling boil, and the pressure is up. It's going to be intense, but you need that pressure for things to change. And so, yeah, okay, here we are. Okay, so we're in this extreme right now. And so we have to just accept that this is the norm. And that way, not shock after shock after shock, it's really calling on us to like take a bigger picture of what's happening here. It's not giving up into what's happening, but it's accepting. And so then that kind of rolls over into our personal lives as well. We've got extreme stuff happening in our personal lives. And the way I'm seeing that is a lot of this stuff is backlog. It's like there's a lot of our mess that's caught up with us, how we've been handling, how we live on this planet, how we've been treating each other, and also in our personal lives, maybe how you've been in a relationship, maybe you haven't been, you know, cleaning stuff up as you go, and now it's really, you know, unbearable, or with your career or money or any of those things. So I feel like the past is catching up with us. You know, it's not a matter of beating ourselves up or feeling hopeless or anything else. Like, okay, I see this is what's happening. Acknowledge it, accept it. Recognize that the fact that you can see it now, that it's a mess, means you've grown. Okay, because before you couldn't see it, you didn't know to do it any differently. We forgive ourselves for that. We've grown. We've been working hard internally. Time to clean up the mess and then get ready to move forward. And I think that's a good spot, Simone, for you to come in.
Yes, and the big news for 2018, of course, is Saturn changing signs. For the last 3 years, Saturn, which is kind of our collective reality, Saturn, has been moving through Sagittarius. Now, Sagittarius tends to do things to extremes, and it can be very overinflated. There can be over-optimism, which crashes into pessimism, which, you know, that's that extremism that we've been dealing with. And of course, the public discourse has gotten pretty ugly. So now that Saturn is changing signs, which it just did at the end of December, and it will last for 3 years, and it's now in its own sign of Capricorn, where it's very comfortable and it functions extremely well. This is a time when, especially in January, when the sun is also moving through Capricorn, we can become realistic. We can really see, like you say, what's been going on and start to take steps toward fixing it, because all the planets will be direct after the 2nd of January. Now, the last 2 years in a row, we've had Mercury retrograde in January. So neither, none of those, either of those months has been good for moving forward with things. It's been about wrapping up the past. So suddenly, we have actually a 2-month period, all of January and February, in which we can move forward. But I would caution with Saturn in Capricorn that it favors small, measured steps. So choosing one New Year's resolution that you know you can tackle and succeed at. And taking small steps toward it is a much better idea than trying to go overboard and tackle 10 different resolutions. Saturn in Capricorn will not favor that. But we can accomplish a lot especially in the first 2 months of the year.
That's awesome. It's probably a good time for me to mention that I'm going to be doing a 5-day live Facebook event for setting your course for 2018. So we're going to look at money, we're going to look at relationships, we're going to look at your health, and I'll give you lots of guidance to help you go through and set some goals. And Simone, I will definitely keep in mind not to overdo how many goals we set, but to just really pick one or two that we can focus on. I think that's really good advice. Appreciate that. Yeah. So
yeah, I also just wanted to add that we start the new year under a full moon, which is also kind of rare. The full moon on New Year's Day is happening in Cancer, Capricorn. And so it's all about illumination. Anything that we launch on the day of a full moon can be successful. However, do be aware that after that, from the 2nd through the 16th, we'll be in a waning moon cycle. So if you haven't actually made something new happen and taken a step toward it on the 1st itself, then it might be best to wait until the 17th. That's a very favorable new moon in Capricorn conjunct Venus. So then that period through the end of February, or rather the end of January, is more favorable than that waning moon period.
Thank you. I'm writing that down. I'm setting dates for events and things in January, and that's good to know. You know, the other thing that you mentioned when we were talking earlier, and that was about the retrogrades not being in the first half of the year, but coming up in the second. Can you say a little bit about that?
Right. The major retrogrades of 2018 are happening in the second half of the year, and that includes both Mars, which is, Mars wants to move forward. He's all about action. And when he goes retrograde, which he does every couple of years, it can be a very frustrating time. And that's from mid-June through August. And then Venus also goes retrograde in October, November. Both those planets are associated with relationships. So I tell you, it's been hell picking wedding charts for people for the second half of the year. Pretty much September is the only decent month in which you can get married, other than maybe early June. So, but the first half of the year, other than a Mercury retrograde, and as we know, that happens 3 times a year for 3 weeks at a time, and it will cover the period of mid-March through mid-April, that general time frame. Other than that retrograde, the whole first half of the year is pretty much smooth sailing, or at least the energy is moving forward. Now, that doesn't always look like smooth sailing. That can look like, whoa, everything's moving, and there's no checks and balances to stop it. So that's where we call upon Saturn in our own lives, which is maybe some kind of a disciplined practice that we do on a daily basis. I've been sitting at my altar every morning, putting my hands on my belly where my inner wisdom lives, and asking my inner wisdom, what do you have to tell me today? If we all did that, just that alone, before heading off in our day, I think we would be honoring what Saturn in Capricorn wants for us, and we would be able to stay on track much easier.
I like that. And I'm always in favor of finding some simple practice that you can do consistently. So when things get crazy, you have something that you go back to, and it's just like a reset button every day. So I love that. I like that idea a lot. I feel like I want to just mention, I did the reading for 2018, and for anybody who's interested in getting a copy of that, you can go to my website and get a free download of that. But the theme that really stood out for me particularly was this whole thing around women and women's strength and women coming forward, taking a stand, not taking abuse, and not having to live in fear anymore. Which I think it's been so subtle for some of us, and I think for other women in other parts of the world, it's been very apparent, very dominant. But I got about 2018 was that if you think you heard women roar last year, you haven't heard anything yet. So I think that started here is actually going to really expand into areas like the Middle East and other places where there's been a lot of repression for women. So this will continue to dive deep in us. So I think, this year is going to be a very significant, meaningful, transitional year for us. I think that things that we've been building toward in terms of changes are actually going to find an anchoring this year. They're going to actually take hold so that we don't go backwards again. So part of that first half of the year, that green light that you're talking about without all the retrogrades, I think we're going to be making some progress, and maybe we anchor that in, and then the retrogrades come and it's, let's revisit this and just make sure we're not going to do any of this again, and we keep moving forward. So
I love that, Anna. That's a perfect way of looking at it. And the anchor theme, that's about as strong of a Saturn term as you can get. Now that Saturn's in its own sign, which favors anchoring and stabilization and grounding, it's so important that if we're not seeing or feeling that in the circumstances around us or in the world in general, at least we're cultivating it within ourselves, which will be much easier than it's been the last few years.
That's awesome. All right. Well, I think we've done it. Have a great month. It's, I think we're off to a very interesting year, and see you next month.
Happy New Year.
Thanks for listening. Subscribe now to be in the know and stay in the flow.